Hi, Randy Miller here for Calkins Media Playoff Report. The Phillies ousted by the San Francisco Giants in Game 6 of the NLCS 3-2. I'm joined by Kevin Cooney, baseball writer, to my right. Jerry Reimenschneider. I still can't get this last name right. Reimenschneider to my left. Jerry, we were all wrong in this series. We all had the Phillies advancing to the World Series. They would have been the first National League team since the 42-44 Cardinals to advance. They're out in 6 games, and they were never really in this series. What went wrong?
Real simple. Guys were on base, 90 to 180 feet away, and the Phillies couldn't bring them in. And especially their quote-unquote big guns. I mean, Chase Utley, Ryan Howard, and Raul Ibanez combined for, Ibanez shouldn't be in that trio there, but Utley and Howard combined for an RBI. 1 RBI. None from the $125 million man.
The Phillies hit .216 for the series tonight in Game 6, 2 for 11 with the runners in scoring position. Kev, this series was billed as pitching. But in the end, that's probably not what we're going to remember us for. What will you take out of this series?
I will take out of this series offensive futility more than great pitching. I think the fact that the Phillies lost this series was not so much because of the Giants. The Giants pitched okay. But Tim Lincecum was beatable in Game 1. He was beatable, obviously, in Game 5 when the Phillies did get to him. Jonathan Sanchez, the Phillies killer, did not kill the Phillies. He barely lasted 2 innings in this game. 3 hitters into the third. Matt Cain was the only Giant that had an outstanding performance from the starters, but Brian Wilson was great. I think, though, the Phillies have to examine their total offensive approach. Too many strikeouts, too power-heavy and reliant. I think that came back and burned them.
That's going to be tough, though, because when you have this kind of lineup that is basically signed forever, except for Jason Worth, who will be going after the season, I don't know how you can change that.
This kind of manager. I mean,
let's talk about that for a minute. In you guys' mind, I think that Charlie Manuel and his coaching staff was out-coached, out-managed in this series. Jerry, do you agree?
Absolutely. Charlie Manuel is tactically challenged. I mean, the man has proven to be a master motivator and a good leader. They don't win this World Series with this collection of players without him. A couple years ago, they don't make this run without him. But he was forced to manage baseball games in this series, and by and large, couldn't do it anywhere nearly as well as Bruce Bochy.
How about Bruce Bochy going with Lincecum there? I like that move a lot. I also really like the move that Sanchez, who's one of his best pitchers, is clearly
rattled.
He's rattled by the fans here. What is it, second inning?
Third inning.
Third inning, he's pulled out of the game. And at that point, the Phillies had a chance. They had them by the throat with a chance to, the crowd's going crazy, with a chance to put them away, go to a Game 7, and then they take them out of the game, 2-1, nobody out in the third, and they don't get a run. And that's just so typical. If the Phillies were going to die this year, this is the way they were going to die. We've seen this all year, and I kept thinking everything will be all right because they do have the best team. But you know what? As Charlie Manuel warned us over and over, I'll say this for Charlie, he warned us over and over that great players, good players, who've had great seasons, they have bad years. And when it mattered most, these guys had bad years. Kev, what do you think about the whole management situation?
I'm actually going to throw this back at you. We both have covered Charlie. You've covered him since he got here. We were both here. Would Charlie have pulled the move that Bruce Bochy did tonight with
Jonathan
Sanchez?
No.
Or Freddie Sanchez.
Yeah.
But I mean, no, because Charlie is Mr. Loyal. Bruce Bochy had a better sense of the moment in this series. His substitutions were completely in the lineup better. He was better able to adapt his team. This is what the Giants have done all year. Their lineup is not close to what the Phillies had. And they were the better team, though.
And would Manuel bring Lidge in with 4 or 5 outs to go? I mean, that's another thing he did. He said, "I'm not screwing around here anymore." And in comes Wilson. It happened a couple times in the series. He flat out managed Charlie. I love Charlie, but he flat out managed.
Let's talk about this briefly. The Phillies, to me, this season had the best team. 97 wins the regular season, the best lineup on paper, the best starting pitching they'll ever have, and a bullpen with Madsen, who gave up the game-winning homer to Uribe in the 8th inning. It's just a typical Citizens Bank Park homer. The Phillies mansion, by the way, can go on and on and on about how this ballpark is a fair ballpark, or they like it the way it is. Well, you know what? It bit him in the butt tonight with a paint scraper home run that is an out everywhere else, while they have all winter to sit and think about maybe moving this ballpark fence back. But let me say this. On the Phillies season, I think they had to win the World Series, and in the clubhouse afterwards, they're saying all the right things. Oh, you know, give the Giants credit, tip your hats to the Giants. You know, we'll come back next year. Well, you know what? You don't know if there's going to be a next year. Something could happen where they may not be back in this spot. There's at some point the A's of 72 to 74 who won the championship didn't get back when you thought they had the same players. I remember growing up in Pittsburgh, look at those Pirate teams from 90 to 92 with 90 to 92 with Leland and Barry Bonds and Benita. Well, they never got back and haven't had a winning season since. You just can't guarantee that. And to me, this is a major failure that this team, this good, did not get it done when they had the power to get it done. They didn't get it done, and to me, I have to say that they just blew it, and they just did.
When you took the tape recorders away, when you put the notepads away, when the TV cameras all went away, a couple of the guys I talked to in the locker room afterwards, you asked them the question, what are you going to feel like in a month when you lost to the San Francisco Giants? And they're like, a lot of expletives were mentioned because of the fact that they know they let a golden chance to win the World Series.
They do know that. They do know that.
They know that to a man. They're playing. They had a good season card. Don't buy it. They're hurting today.
Sure.
I don't think you can give Chase Utley and Ryan Howard, who had a couple moments tonight, passes anymore. No more free passes. Those guys flat out failed in this series to swing the bats the way they are paid and the way Ryan Howard is paid.
I did see Ryan Howard talking, by the way, after the game. Did Chase Utley ever
Chase Utley apparently did come out after everybody.
Okay.
But in fairness to Ryan Howard did not hit for power, had no RBIs. But he was their leading hitter coming into this game. I know he's not paid to hit singles. Somebody had to be on base.
He's also not paid to strike out every time there's a man on second and third.
But I think that you have to look at it as they did not get on. They did not set the table well enough. And Utley bears most of the blame on that.
But when they did, Kev, he struck out.
I think that the offense just was a total wreck all year, and as you guys mentioned, they might have to examine it. Isn't the right thing. Maybe the thing to do is to make a trade. Maybe the thing to do is to really shake this up. They're going to have a new right fielder next year. Jason Worth is gone. They're probably going to have a new bullpen. I don't think Don Brown's ready to be the right fielder. I mean, that's to talk about another day. What's going to happen next season. But that said, this has been going back to the days of Larry Bowa, that this team, and maybe it's just this generation of baseball, you play to hit the homers. Well, the Phillies usually hit the homers, and there was a stat I saw today about their number of home runs in the playoffs this year compared to the last two, and it was about 1/3 of what they had. It was they just didn't get a hit, and you didn't feel it. You know, I'll say this: the crowd was really into tonight. I was in San Francisco, and the crowd, while it was a good crowd, was nothing like this. They had the 10th man here, and they didn't take advantage of it. And I just think that this team really blew it. And Victorino, I give him credit. He talks after every game.
And for about an hour 10 tonight.
Yeah, and he tried his best. I'm not going to blame Victorino, who, by the way, was moved down to 6th for Game 6 and come up with 2 hits. And they did have some bad luck with Ruiz's liner there, but still.
They had some bad luck, I think, too. To be fair to the Phillies, it seemed like every big bounce, and I'm not making excuses for them. Mm-hmm. But baseball is, it's a game of inches and all that, and it really was. There were a lot of little balls here and there that an inch or two higher changed the complexion of the series. But there's no excuse.
Maybe they got what they deserved after all this failure. Maybe the baseball gods were saying to them, and there's an old saying in baseball: the baseball gods will come down on you and you get what you deserve. Well, Kev, did this Phillies team get what they deserved?
A little bit. I mean, you look at just the way they handled themselves offensively through most of the season, and they kept saying, we'll get it done, we'll be okay. They never were okay. And I think that you have to cut back on the number of strikeouts. And I think the move that you have to try to do, you have to find a way maybe to get somebody that's more of a contact leadoff hitter kind of guy. That could mean the shortstop could be the one, I think, in the offseason you examine and try to change. Remember, he's only signed for 1 year on his contract.
One last thing before we head out here. Ruben Amaro Jr. made a move last winter that...
This is Cliff Lee, isn't it?
That we all talked about over and over and over. Well, you know what? I thought it was going to be Cliff Lee versus Holiday in the World Series. Well, Cliff Lee's going to be starting Game 1, and Tim Lincecum. If Cliff Lee had been in this series, he probably pitches a couple shutouts, and those 2 runs they scored tonight are enough to win the games and win the series. Ruben Amaro, now, this isn't all on Ruben because I believe Ruben's doing what he was told to do, and trade Cliff Lee because you want Holiday. The Phillies spun that off as we needed to upgrade our system, which was, I don't buy that for a second. But in your mind, guys, what do you think? I'll start with you, Jared, first on what does Phillies management, what role did they play in this collapse?
Well, if in fact they're telling Ruben, if Ruben Amaro Jr. is accountable for his own action, it's a big role. Roy Oswalt was really nice this year.
Yeah.
He's no Cliff Lee.
No.
Have we not learned that again in the last few weeks? Cliff Lee is a beast in the postseason. He's virtually 2 automatic wins in every series.
And I think the Rangers are going to win this series now because of their lineup. They have the best hitter in baseball in Josh Hamilton, and they have the
in the series.
In the series,
yeah.
They have the best hitter and one of the 2 best pitchers. I'm not ready to take Halladay out of the best pitcher in baseball yet. What do you think about that World Series?
Can you imagine Cliff Lee holding up the Commissioner's Trophy in about 2 weeks?
Yeah.
What it would be like to be in Ruben Amaro's family room at that point. I think right now the Rangers, after watching them this week up in New York,
You're picking?
I'm picking the Rangers in 5.
Rangers
I don't
5,
think it's
Jared?
close.
Boy, the Giants are gritty. I respect how hard they play, and they pitch big in big moments. Rangers in 6.
Rangers in 6. I'm going to take Rangers in 7.
By the way, I picked Yankees in 6 before, so
I picked Yankees in 5
I picked Yankees too. So apparently we know the American League better than the National League. Hey guys, thanks for joining in. We're in the visiting broadcast booth here at Citizens Bank Park, and thanks for joining in. And maybe the Phillies will get them next year.